Okay, so today we are going to talk about fermented foods. So I want to start off by saying that there's a reason why we should all have fermented foods in our diet, and that is that 90% of our immune system lives in our gut. And when you have a good balance of healthy bacteria in your gut, you're way less likely to get sick, and when you do get sick, you're more likely to get through whatever illness you're dealing with quicker. Most Americans, A, do not have fermented foods in their diets, and 2, are exposed to antibiotics in all different ways all the time, and so that kills both good and bad bacteria and causes overgrowth of bad bacteria. So what we're going to do today is talk about how you can make fermented foods and incorporate them into your everyday life. And also, probiotics are great. You can buy Life 5 probiotic. Is a great probiotic that Young Living makes, and I recommend it. But you don't have to pay, $4 a pill. You can, take a whole head of cabbage and it'll last you months and months and months, and all you need is a pinch a day, and that's as much as probably 4 probiotic pills. So you get a whole lot, many billions of bacteria in one bite of sauerkraut. So sauerkraut is something that my daughter takes to school every day. I try to get something fermented in my kids every day. My son doesn't like sauerkraut, so tonight he ate fermented ketchup on his hot dog. We just try to incorporate something fermented every single day in our diet. So now I'm going to teach you how to ferment things. What we have going on now is I am boiling about a gallon of water right here to get ready to make kombucha. So this is set aside. So tonight we're going to make kombucha, we're going to make sauerkraut, and we're going to make kefir. All are super simple and only require 1 or 2 ingredients. So really simple. So I think I'm going to start off with the sauerkraut while we wait for the water to boil. So super simple. People have all different kinds of recipes. I'm going to teach you how to ferment with salt. You can also ferment with a starter that you can buy at the store. Just easier said than done, right? There is a core in the cabbage. You can choose to cut it out because it's kind of crunchy and hard when you make it, or you can leave it in. I'm going to leave it in because it has a lot of really beneficial enzymes in it, and so when I leave it in, then there may be a part that's a little crispy, I can take it out of my mouth, but it has a lot of really good enzymes in it that help digestion in the body. So we're going to leave it in. So it's super simple. You just slice it up. I'm going to do it in the Cuisinart. It does not have to be done in the Cuisinart. You can just slice. I've done it both ways. If I'm in the mood to just chop, kind of helps me release, then I'll just chop. But for the sake of time tonight, I'm just going to do it in the Cuisinart. So I use this flat blade, and you'll see it already has cabbage on it. It's because I'm going to show you the finished product. I have 3 different stages for you guys to help speed up the process. So this is the flat blade that has that little, bladey guy there. Bladey guy. Some technical term. Okay, so I'm just going to stick it in. It makes my life really easy. And since I didn't make it to do any weights today, a little bit of muscular work too. While that water is boiling and we're cutting the cabbage, can you unwrap those 10 bags of tea? Thanks. Okay, this is the boring part. Any questions? And my hands are clean, by the way. Wash them. Mine are too.
Does it work better if it's cut really small?
I think it's easier to eat when it's so small. I don't know if it necessarily works better. It's not. I think it's full.
And you always buy just organic cabbage?
Just organic. Yes, I think it's full. Sorry guys. I wanted to get it all in there. Alright, so this is overflowing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it looks like after. So what I did before you guys came, when I was trying to feed my kids and put them to bed, is I quickly threw a whole cabbage just like this into the Cuisinart, and I threw it into this container. Glass or stainless is best. And I put 1 tablespoon of Himalayan sea salt in there.
Are those granules, or how big is that salt?
It's just,
It's very
it's
small.
pretty fine. It's pretty fine. It doesn't, I would probably do fine because it's going to stay in there with the cabbage. So all I did was I put it in here. If you don't have a lid, you can just kind of mix it up or stir it around. And I just shook it to get the salt all through the cabbage. And then what I'm going to do, what the salt does is a few things. One, it ferments it. It also makes the cabbage sweat. So what you're going to find is when we take it out, we're going to have a lot of liquid. So it has been in there for about 2 hours now. You only really need an hour for it to sit. And then I'm just going to take it and I'm going to stick it in this little Fido jar. Fido is a great brand. They make really good containers. You can also get these at IKEA. You can get them at TJ Maxx, Ross. You don't have to buy an expensive jar. But I really do prefer the jars. These are kind of like foolproof. You can use mason jars, but it's just a little easier, and they don't explode as much. When you ferment, they build up pressure in there, and I have had friends ruin their ceilings in their kitchens by exploding containers of great kombucha. So, just when you ferment. So it looks like there's no way I'm going to get the rest of this in here, but I will. And it's important that I do because it's important you pack it down. So I'm going to just take this spatula and start packing it in. And as I pack it, I'm making it sweat as well. So all the liquid is starting to come out of it.
So a whole head of lettuce fits in that.
It should, most of it. I got some really big heads, so we may not be able to fit all of it in, but we should get really close. And I'm going to make a mess of my counter in the interest of time. Typically a little bit more cautious with messes. Okay, so I have about maybe a quarter of it left. Let's see if I can put it all in there.
We're rolling.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to pause on the kombucha, on the sauerkraut for a second to do the kombucha. And you have all those ready?
I do.
Okay. One thing I forgot to take out is sugar. Okay, so as a general rule, I do not use sugar in my house. It's the only thing that eats sugar in my house is my kombucha, because it eats. That's how it ferments. Is it has a SCOBY, is the fermenting agent, and it eats sugar. So I am going to pour.
This organic sugar, is it some kind of cane, or what is it?
This is just organic evaporated cane sugar.
It says evaporated cane juice, organic sugar.
Yes. Which is a health, it's non-GMO, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what we're going to do is take this sugar, and we are going to take the pot off. Should probably turn the burner on too. Okay, and it's going to go, actually first we're going to put the tea in.
Do you use distilled or filtered water?
I use filtered water. My house has filtered water. So we're just going to leave the tea in there for 4 minutes for black tea. It's different for green.
How long did you do green tea for?
I can't remember. I have to look at my cheat sheet that I use.
What happens if you do it too long?
I think it would just be stronger. I don't think it'd be anything majorly wrong. It's just a general suggestion of how long to do it for. Okay, so we're going to let that steep. You're just making tea in a big batch is all you're doing. Okay. So let's see how much more to get into this.
How many bags of tea was that?
That was 10 bags because I'm making a gallon of kombucha. Okay, I'm also going to pour in the juice. There's some juice in here. And I'm going to go ahead and pour the liquid in. I want to get all the sweat, cabbage sweat. Because I want the cabbage to remain ideally below the liquid is the goal. And I have some little cheats that I use. I'll show you in a second. I might not kill myself and end here with about an inch at the top. I just push it down as far as I can. As you see, there's water starting to bubble up. I don't know if you guys can see from there. But I have these little things I bought, which I never really used before, but because I've been fermenting so much, I made my life easy. So the best really, if you don't have, I bought these little guys on Amazon. They're called pickle pebbles, and they're for fermenting. And all they do is hold the veggies below the water line. They're weights. They're just glass weights is all they are. It's just cheating, basically. Because if you don't have weights, you kind of just need to keep it. What I do is I just keep it on the counter in view and make sure every day I'm pushing the cabbage below the water. Otherwise, you'll get mold on the top, and you don't want that. You want it to stay below the water. And that's it. In 2 weeks, this will be super, super delicious sauerkraut. So I'm going to pass around some sauerkraut that's already made.
You leave it out 2 weeks.
You leave it on the counter. You leave it on the counter. You can leave it longer. I have left many batches for a month. It depends on how sour you want it. 2 weeks is a good amount to have enough good bacteria that it's not too sour that my 7-year-old will eat it every day.
To stop it from fermenting, you put it in the fridge?
Exactly. It still will ferment in the fridge, but at a really, really, really slow temperature.
And what about, is sunlight bad?
I mean, I wouldn't put it in direct sunlight. I have a lot of light in my house, though. I've never had an issue. So this is the sauerkraut we've been working on now for probably 5 months.
And that was red cabbage.
This is just purple cabbage. This started as purple.
Turn a different color.
It'll stay the same color. It'll stay the same color. My daughter likes to have variety, so I was like, oh, I'll just make some white cabbage tonight. This is purple cabbage, and I'll pass out some forks, and you guys can try it. While we work on kombucha and kefir. Okay, so feel free to take one and pass it down. Okay. So I'm going to just leave this here because this was just an example. I'm going to have a whole lot of sauerkraut in my house for the next few months, so maybe we'll send some home. You like it?
I do.
And so you guys have just given you like $10 of probiotics in a spoonful. It's really, really strong. Yeah, it's really, really beneficial. So,
Cool.
I'm going to wait. Let's see how much longer we have here for this.
Yeah, you can't redo it.
Usually I see it at the top.
That's good.
Oh, okay. So we timed it pretty well here. Pretty impressed. Okay. So I'm just going to take these tea bags, squeeze as much out of here as I can without burning myself. And this is the start of the kombucha. So I have about a gallon of water with 10 black tea bags. I'm going to pour in 1 cup of organic sugar. There. And I'm going to stir the sugar in to just dissolve it into the tea. This takes a long time to cool down. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. Pulling out a kombucha I made last week that I haven't strained yet. So I'm going to show you what you're going to end up with. I'm really bad about spilling. This really should be higher, but I spill every time I pour this in. Okay, so this is a container of my scobies. So a SCOBY is a fermenting agent for kombucha. And I put a SCOBY about this big into this jar to start with, and I poured in about a cup-ish, about around a cup, I eyeballed it, of already made kombucha into basically this batch once it cooled down, right? And so now you'll see that I have this was the beginning, this was what I started with, which is what I threw in there, and this is a brand new SCOBY it made.
Where do you get your starter?
I bought mine, but you will take some home, so I will give you some. So this starter, I'm just gonna, so basically, we open the lid of that.
And don't throw it down the sink.
No, save it.
No, but you know what can happen? It grows.
Oh, it'll grow in your sink. I'm
And
not
the
gonna
plumbing, yeah, it's dangerous.
So give it to other people.
Yeah,
So,
don't throw them in your...
I will gift you all SCOBYs before you go. So this SCOBY is just going to go in this jar. I'm actually going to give it to you guys before we go, but we don't need to video that. So this is kombucha. And I will pass it around after we are done videoing. And this is unflavored kombucha. And what I'm going to do is I like to flavor mine, and my kids have different preferences. So it's just kind of their mood. What you can do is you can pour it into smaller containers and flavor each one differently. My new thing that I've been doing is I just pour like about 3/4 of a glass of kombucha, and then I top it off with about 1/4 of juice for the kids. And I just buy organic juice with no sugar in it. They're really into grape right now. They like Concord grape. I also buy, one that's like a multi-green. I buy a juice that's like a multi-green that has pineapple in it, that has like broccoli and kale and all this stuff in it, and I just put a little in there, and so they get some veggies in there that way too. But you can really flavor it with anything. In the summer and spring, I love to cut up peaches and just throw peaches in there and just let it sit, and the peaches will ferment in there with the kombucha. So you can totally do fresh fruit. Juice is just fast and easy, and I can flavor on the fly for my kiddos. So that's how I do that. So once this cools down, all I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it into this gallon container, and then I'm going to put my SCOBY in it, and I'm going to put a paper towel on top of it with a rubber band, just so I don't get fruit flies. That's the only reason. So you need some air. No, I did not put the lid on. The only reason I put the lid on this one is it was done fermenting, and I put it in the fridge to stop, or at least to slow it way down in fermenting, because it'll get way sour. These are really, really strong SCOBYs. They're like Mac Daddy SCOBYs. So 5 days is really all my kids can take until they say it's too sour. I can deal with a little bit more sour, but that's about all they can take with these SCOBYs. You can do longer.
How do you make it fizzy?
Okay, so you make it fizzy by doing what's called a second ferment. And my husband loves it fizzy, so I do second ferments for him. So once you take the SCOBY out, you put a lid on it, a regular lid, not a paper towel, and you let it sit on the counter for 1 or 2 more days. And then when you open it, you hold up, and you'll get bubbles to it. You can do your second ferment with a fruit or a juice, or you can just do it the tea by itself, either way.
So for 5 days, then you take the SCOBY out?
Yep, and then you can do the second ferment by just leaving the lid on, or you don't have to second ferment it. It's up to you.
So you don't add another SCOBY to it?
No, no more SCOBYs to it. And just so you know, you really do not, you cannot put the SCOBY in a batch when it's still warm. It has to be room temperature or you'll kill your SCOBY. So I'm not going to show you that part. But all I do is I stick the SCOBY in the container and I pour out some previous kombucha. I eyeball it, about a cup. Put the lid on, either in the fridge or 2 days out for a second ferment. Super simple.
Do you always have to take the old SCOBY, like remove when you start a new batch? You just take one SCOBY, like you make sure you.
Yeah, I even just cut mine and just you only need this much.
It doesn't matter if it's like mine. I guess I'm on my second batch that I tried, and I just left it. I didn't separate it or do anything with it, so I still have both SCOBYs.
Yeah.
Do I need to
just save them. Just save
like
them
in the new batch of kombucha.
You can use all your SCOBYs in the new batch. You're just gonna have SCOBYs come in your ears. You're gonna run out of room in your thing. I mean, I have more I've been giving them away. They just keep growing and growing and growing, which is awesome. Give the gift of probiotics to all your friends. Okay, so that is how. So we've done sauerkraut and we've done kombucha in like 10 minutes. So now I'm gonna show you how to make kefir, and you're gonna die how easy this is. So easy. I'm going to make it how I normally do in the morning, which is just a little easier for how my apparatuses are. So I make a smoothie with kefir every single morning, and that's my morning probiotic. I'm going to show you already made kefir, and then I'm going to show you how to make a new batch of kefir. It is like beyond easy right now. Okay, so this is, actually, I typically do my kefir 24 to 48 hours. I was traveling, and I got home late last night, so this is made, did I make it last? No, I made it this morning. So this is a little underdone, but I'm just going to show you the principle of it. So it's still fermented. I don't know if you guys heard that, like, psh, when I opened it. So it is fermenting still. I buy raw milk. I buy from a milk co-op. In Texas, you can do a co-op. And so I use this, like, super gorgeous, grass-fed, no GMO milk that I drive to go get, and I love it. It's amazing. If you don't want to go through all that trouble, there's a couple of brands that do grass-fed milk that are low temperature pasteurized. I recommend doing that. I don't recommend using high pasteurized, homogenated milk. It's just not good for anyone anyway. So this is awesome milk. If you want to do co-ops, I'm happy to share information. So all I did, I'm going to kind of do the reverse. I'm going to pour out my kefir, and I'm going to show you how to make a new batch of kefir. So this is just milk with kefir grains in it. So typically when I ferment it a little longer, it looks like yogurt is all stuck to the edges, and I take my spoon out and I kind of scrape it off. So I'm going to take, okay, so I should also tell you this. Kombucha and kefir do not like metal. So you don't ever want to use the metal strainers or metal utensils with them. So I have a plastic spoon and I have a nylon strainer here, FYI. It does not like metal. So what I'm going to do, I think I just got a little bit of kefir in the kombucha. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just scrape off all the extra. And then what you'll see here, this is called a kefir grain. So we have scobies for kombucha and we have grains for kefir. And this is the fermenting agent for kefir. It kind of looks like cottage cheese, but it's much stronger. It's it feels kind of sticky, gummy, if you will. And all I do is I rinse my jar out that I used from yesterday.
Does it matter if you rinse it in non-filtered water?
This is filtered water, but I don't think it would matter if I'm like, you're not going to be soaking it in there. So I rinse it out. It's pretty clean. I put my kefir grains back in. Shake up my milk. It's got all nice, yummy cream on top. And then I'm going to pour it in here. Full fat milk, guys. The best for you. Please do not be drinking low fat milk. It does you no good. Okay. You now have a batch for tomorrow. This is it. That's all that it takes to make kefir. Super, super easy.
And you always latch it. You don't put a paper towel over that.
I do. I latch my kefir. Yeah. The
Would
kefir
you
needs.
starter grains?
I will give you some. Mine came from a dear friend of mine, and I passed them on to all. They grow. So I just took more out. They grow super, super fast. And they grow faster the more air they have. So this small jar is because I just ran out of this size, because I wanted my kefir for tomorrow morning, so I had to do 2 batches today so I could show you guys. But that's it. That's kefir, that's kombucha, and that is sauerkraut.
Wow. It's amazing.
That's awesome. Thank you.